Alright, should be live. Testing, testing. Cool. Time to post the Sierra bricks. Quickly. My content. And let's just post the stream right now. Undo. Here, delete, Control A. Paste. Post. Sign in. Retweet. Cool. Here we go. Time to build the Mustang. Hopefully this does go on YouTube, and hopefully this broadcast is public too. Let me just double check that really quick. Public event, yes. So this should be live right now, and it should be recorded to YouTube too. Alright, opening up the pictures, the old build. Yep, here we go. Oh yeah, I also have some ice cream here. I guess we'll eat that while I'm waiting for viewers. Okay. So let's get working. Oh yeah, we have viewers. If you guys want to ask any questions about anything, whether it's the build or anything else, feel free. Stay as long as you want, as short as you want. This should be up on YouTube after the stream is done. So right now I'm working on rebuilding the front suspension. Okay. And then that's interesting. How did I do that? This is fun. I don't quite remember how I installed steering on this. Should be like that. Oh, it's both on the same one. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Okay, so this is the wheel hub. It has kingpin inclination, so that's that right there between these two. It also is going to have a caster angle. Right now you can see that the pins are right on top of each other, but when it's mounted it's going to be like that. And then also it has some Ackerman steering geometry. The steering mount is going to be right there. So that's it so far. Alright, right now the second wheel hub is done. I have two, side by side. Now it's time to go on to the suspension itself. Okay, how did I have the suspension set up? I ended up okay. So there's just a sub. Okay. Although I think these were longer. Let's see. Yes, these were longer. Okay. Okay. Maybe I should do it this way. Huh. Oh no, it was up at the top. Let me see. Alright, you can see here that I shortened the length of the lift arms, or the A arms, by mounting them to the second hole. If I had the newer suspension arms, I'd change that. Actually, let me tilt this down so that you can see the build process, more or less. Okay. So now that we have the arms mounted, we can mount the wheel hubs. And there we go. So this is a front suspension, kingpin inclination, of course, caster angle, and anti-dive geometry in the arms, since this one's angled backwards and the bottom one is flat. Now it's time to mount the actual springs on here. That is an 11. Alright, awesome. So the thing with the suspension here is Alex from LP Power pointed out to me that the springs are mounted to the top arms on the actual Mustang. So to replicate that, I am going to be putting in these L-shaped lift arms that connect to the top, and they will activate the springs. Springs will be mounted right here. They'll be pushed up. Although I'm not sure if that's, yeah, that is the direction they were pointing. All right. think this is going through this. Those together. So here I'm using the 4L lift arms with a little knob on the end to offset this beam that's going to be holding the suspension, back one, so that it can be in line with the rest of everything else. So far, so good. All right. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to just post something in the Q&A box on the Google Hangouts page. I will make sure to answer that as soon as I notice it. Alright, so the front suspension is mostly complete. Just got the springs mounted, although this is a little unstable, but there are these pins back here to stabilize it later, once I remember how I did it. For now, we're here. Where did I actually have it mounted? Oh, okay. So instead of these kind of pieces, I actually had these mounted, the suspension mounted to, or the steering link rather, I had it mounted to one of these cross blocks instead. Alright, there we go. Now it's time to start working on the gear rack. my. Keep forgetting that I have ice cream. Alright. If I remember correctly, I had this mounted on, yeah, much to one of these. Although I didn't really like the mounting setup of that I had earlier. Let's see. So here's what I did earlier. There are these 3 holes here at the bottom, and I had 5.5 long axles going through here, and they were secured kind of loosely. So whenever I had the suspension like this thing would wiggle around a little bit. So that was the only real problem. Yeah. So I'm thinking of a way to fix that. Probably the simplest way would just be to use some pins. But actually, yeah, that would work. The thing is that on the other side, I had some cross blocks going down from here to here. They'd be secured at the axles too. So that would make this hole a lot more stable. I think for now I'm just going to go back to mounting it the way I had it, because it didn't cause any major problems. It was just 5.5s like this, and then I had a little pin going into there. So it ended up being like that. And these fit really nicely into here. It's barely even forced, not even at all. And so this would be, that would be how it was mounted earlier. And then it would go through here, and then later on be secured. Let's see, yeah. And there we go. So now you can see also that this brick right here, it stabilizes this top arm, because all of this along here, I know it's kind of hard to see because it's black, but all of these here are just based on connectors, so I had to use these cross blocks right here to stabilize the middle of this number 3 connector down to the bottom, and then this 5 beam to stabilize to the top. So this is all overall just a very sturdy suspension design once we have this mounted. Yeah, that's the way it was. Alright, cool. Okay, unfortunately on my pictures I don't have the return to center setup detailed, so I'm gonna have to build this from memory. This towards the back. Okay. Alright, so this is definitely going to be different than what I had earlier. But it might turn out for the better. Okay, let's just get building. Okay, so that's how I used to have it. So I could actually, instead of bothering with that, I can, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to change this up a little bit, make the system a little better. That's one of the good things about rebuilding a model, is if you rebuild it from scratch, some of the parts that didn't really work out that well before, well, the steering worked actually kind of fine, but I felt like it took up some unnecessary space and was really cluttered and not as simple as I'd like it to be. So this time, I can make it a lot simpler. Yep, there we go. So it'll be, was that mounted? I don't know if these pictures will show it. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, I just remembered the way I mounted, the way I secured these was actually, instead of using a 7 lift arm here, I actually had some cross blocks going up and over, and just had that based on axle connectors and such. So I'm going to go ahead and rebuild that real quick. I'll be taking that off, and that. Alright, here goes. Four. Oh, that's upside down. Alright, so now I get to mount this back in there. And that goes back on there as well. And I'm doing it backwards. Now the suspension should work. Oh yes, it's working great. Feels really responsive. So it's a little weird. Oh, that's because yeah. So that one's a little bit off. This one's working fine. But upside down too. Yeah, there you go. What did I do wrong here? Oh, that's what I did. Completely forgot about that. That I shortened the lift arms, or the A arms, and I mounted them in the wrong position. That's why the left one is acting up. Okay, time to fix that. A little complicated. Sorry that you can't tell much from my bad quality camera and the fact that all these pieces are black, not colored like an LDD. Although I might go ahead and make an LDD file of this tonight, post it on Facebook. Alright, that's complete. Wait, after I mount these. And then, now the suspension should work. After I get steering mounted, we'll test that out. Yeah. So this is working very nicely. One thing I don't like about Lego springs is that their springs aren't very consistent. Some of them bend, and a lot of my springs actually crack at the rim where the spring is. So that's the one thing that Lego would hopefully fix sometime soon. Or that's one of the things that I'd like Lego to fix. I don't know if they will or not, but it'd be very nice to have some stronger springs. Now, how did I have this motor mounted? Looks like it was actually on the edge, like right here. So that would make sense, but if I can mount it here, that would be great. That I can actually mount right there. That's pretty convenient. Never thought about mounting a, let's see if I have a spare part to show exactly what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and toss this in the trash too. Okay. So the weird thing about these hockey springs with Lego is their mounting points aren't very nice. So what I like to do, what I just thought of doing, is taking one of these pieces, the gray piece, and putting some of these on there. And since the axle is basically going to be, it's not going to be applying force in this sort of skewing direction. Like, it's not going to be altering it like that. It's just only going to be applying rotational pressure. Then this should be a fairly stable mounting system. Hopefully that made sense. Alright, yeah, that's at center. Tweezers. I can actually go ahead and just slide this on for now. Okay, now I need a mounting point for this. And also skid plate down here would be good. Okay, so if I combine those two. Alright. So I just mounted a hockey string with that method. It seems fairly sturdy. So I'm going to keep building. I can actually get rid of these. Now we can make the motor mount. I'm trying to remember, did I have a working steering wheel on this? Yes, I did. So that's something to add on right now. Working steering wheel. Um, hmm. Yeah, in order to have a working steering wheel, I have to change the motor mount to its, I guess, original state. Actually, for now, I'm going to separate these two parts, since I can work on the steering subassembly separate. This should make it a lot cleaner. This is the front suspension right here. Leave that there. Okay. Have that there. We'll go right to that. Then I'll probably need to. So right turn will actually be a right turn. So I'm going to have to double. I'm just going to have to keep the orientation of the gearing then. Let's see. Might as well keep these. Unless they're not going to be of any use. Let's get one of these mounted right here. pretty simple mounting method. Zero viewers, awesome. Exactly what I wanted. Oh my. Break time. Blood hurts my eyes. Put on those shades and wave to yesterday. The sunlight hurts. Put on those shades and wave to yesterday. Oh, okay. Alright. Oh my. So right now I'm finishing up the steering motor mount. Found a really nice way to mount both the motor. So to mount the motor, have a skid plate for the steering rack so that it slides smoothly back and forth, and also to stabilize the gear rack and the gear so that they don't skip. All of it in one little package right here. And I also have this this tan gear is going to go to the steering wheel. That's going to be located in the cabin later. So now I get to mount this all back together. Right. I think, oh yeah, let's go ahead and hook up the steering motor. I believe this motor is sitting a little bit higher, or no, it shouldn't be sitting any higher. This is about the original height. Maybe it is sitting higher. It's interesting. I think I changed my steering rack setup later on, and never adjusted for it in, well, never took pictures of it, but this should be perfectly fine. Or maybe what I did was I routed. It's very interesting. Okay, so either way, mounting the steering or mounting the steering assembly to the actual suspension, and I should be able to get out a battery box and test this now. It should work. So there we go. This is the whole steering assembly. Looking pretty good. Again, just quickly putting this out there. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask. There's a Q&A box in the stream. I'll answer any of them. Okay. Moving on to the rest of the body now. Or actually, I'm going to go ahead and build a rear axle now. So if you guys remember, last time I did a leaf spring axle with custom leaf springs. Here's one of them that was broken. So these are the custom leaf springs I designed in AutoCAD or Autodesk Inventor. Unfortunately, they don't really work. Oh, hi. We actually got a question, but it doesn't matter. Answer the question. Done. What's up? I'm building Legos, obviously. Anyways, so last time I had these custom leaf springs. Unfortunately, they broke. Now, I'm actually going to use Alex's leaf springs. That's one of my friends. Anyways, one of my friends in middle school. All right, so this time I'm using Alex's leaf springs, which are actually all brick based. So we'll actually have this entire model be 100% Lego instead of having custom leaf springs, which I mean, custom leaf springs are pretty cool, but I think it'd be better if we just had full Lego leaf springs, and those seem a lot more stable. So let's go ahead and look up Alex's leaf springs on Eurobricks. They're on page 3 of my forum post. There we go. So here I used 13 stud long leaf springs, and Alex actually had 15. I'm trying to remember how I fixed that or changed that up. So let me go ahead and just build a 15 long leaf spring just to demonstrate what it is. I'll use different colors too. Let's see, what sort of colors do I have for this? Oh yeah, I know how I can fix that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is what Alex's leaf springs look like. So just to quickly show, the yellow part was the actual spring itself. These gray parts were the mounting, and it would just bend like that upon compression. This part would hold these two red parts together, and those red parts were just essentially part of the wheel hub, how it mounted onto the spring. And the blue part right there, that would actually go this way to a differential, and everything was all brick-based in that chassis. The thing is, I want to have this as studless as possible, and basically the only parts that I'm going to be using that are brick-based are probably just the leaf spring itself. This black part is going to be replaced with just a normal leaf spring, or not leaf spring, lift arm. So that's going to be replaced, and then it'll be mounted onto the wheel like that. Have a nice little Mustang leaf spring. Alright. I'm also going to shorten this leaf spring by a little bit, and in my old chassis, if you guys see the pictures, if you guys seen the pictures of my old chassis, you can see one of the problems that I had, why I didn't just go straight to Alex's leaf springs, was they would actually interfere with the chassis. The chassis ran directly overhead above this, so the leaf spring would just sit like that. It would fit fine, but it wouldn't have any compression. So I'm going to be shortening the leaf springs a bit, and then going ahead straight to the build. And then, yeah, around these shortened leaf springs, I'm going to be building a little bit shorter of a chassis. Alright, let's see. That'll look nice. Should I go for black leaf springs? I think I'm going to go all black. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so here we go. Here's a little minimized version of it. Since I don't need to have anything running to the gearbox, actually, you know what, I might want to have Now that I think about it, I might actually want to somehow have some sort of connection back to the gearbox, which is going to be mounted around one of these frames. Or not the gearbox, the differential, yeah, sorry. So the differential is going to be mounted inside one of these frames. Although I could use one of the older style frames, have older style diff too. But to be honest, I don't really like the old style differentials. They're a little harder to mount at a 90-degree angle and things like that. Although I do have the older gears. See if I can find them. I have them in here. Oh yeah, they're up here. These crown gears, which made it a little bit nicer to do 90 degrees in the old style. But since I have access to these newer, cooler differentials, I'm going to go ahead and use those. Alright, let's see. How did I mount this? Okay. Yeah, now that I think about it, it might actually be a good idea to have some sort of mount running back to the differential. And since the leaf spring is just a floating thing, I'm actually going to make my own little mount for it. I said I was going to go like mostly studless here, but change of plans, guys. So one of the other things here is that, oh wait, no, with my new with the shackles that I can, yeah, okay. What I was basically gonna say is I wanted to have these mounted at an odd interval. So have these mounted, say, 17 studs apart instead of 18. But with the shackles that I'm gonna build for this, I can actually keep these mounted at odd lengths as well as even lengths. Although it's actually possible to, oh my, why am I overcomplicating this so much? Alright, so earlier they were mounted at 15 in between them. Since I'm going to be using an old style differential, you know what, I'm using a new style. There's a way that I can work around this. Alright, here we go. And we're down to one viewer, cool. For that little quiet session of me talking to myself. Oh, 2 viewers, good. All right. So we have to have 5, 4. Okay. So I need a 6. 2 by 6. See if I need black 2 by 6. No, I don't. I'm going with yellow. So here we go. Here are the leaf springs mounted to the differential casing. This actually looks fairly nice. I'm pretty pleased. Yep. Although, could have used one of these C-beams here instead of the straight up rectangular one. Could have used a C, and then, I mean, to be honest, this is probably a little bit sturdier, especially for the leaf springs. So I'm going to keep it that way. Alright, here we go. Let's mount the drive. Let's see, how wide is this again? It's 12, 17 between. Okay. Yeah, so that should work. Sometimes I have to keep telling myself that something should work, just so that I'm happy. Since I have that, so that should go 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that'll all be sticking out 1, which is nice. Bam, that looks nice. I might try and model some of these sections that I'm building in LDD tonight, Lego Digital Designer, and post them on my Facebook page, facebook.com/VKTechnic, and they will be posted there. You guys can look at them, take a closer look at how exactly all this stuff is coming together and how it's working. Since my camera is only VGA quality, not even 720p. Alright, so here are the 2 axles. Going to be about that far apart. Yeah. So this axle is pretty simple. All I have to do now is just secure this, which is easy due to these holes right there. So after I secure this, I'm going to be going on to building the chassis around this. Hopefully we can get these 2 connected and actually have this sitting on wheels in a bit. Let's see if I can open up blueprint that I had earlier. Pictures, temp, Mustang, and there's the blueprint. Okay. How do I want to do this? Two, four. Again, feel free to ask questions about really anything, build related or not. It looks a little large. Do a gainer. Ha. Ha, you're funny. It's not really a question, but okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and mount it like that. So this looks a little bit overly bulky, but I think that's what you get for using system bricks. Yeah, there's really not much I can do about this. Unless I wanted to have, well, either way it'd look bulky. This way I'm trying to minimize on parts, maybe make the axle a little lighter. Although, I really wanted to minimize on parts, I could take out like half of this. Alright. Okay, now looking at my old chassis. So I had this mounted to one of these, right about here. So if I do this, I can actually, oh, that's one of the problems. If I put this out more, yeah, that would work. Basically, for this mounting point, I need to have the shackle be, or just, there has to be a lift arm right above this, okay? So if I mount this directly like that with no space, then the lift arm has no mounting point without interfering with this, with the bend of this. Although, second thought, it shouldn't be too bad, since this isn't going to be bending all that much, and with the shackle in place. I'm actually going to go ahead and try that out really quickly. How far is it? That needs to be 1, 2, 4, so 5, 6, 7. Alright, here we go. Let's try this out. So here's basically how it would look. The shackle in the rear is actually only 2.5 studs. This is to raise the rear up and actually have some sort of a camber angle. or I think it's a caster angle, yeah, positive caster angle. And if this is more stable, I think I'm just going to bend it by this. Yeah, that looks, well, it interferes towards the end, which, to be honest, isn't that big of a problem. If it bottoms out, that's not a big deal. Yeah, compared to the front suspension travel, although, let's see, this should be able to travel about, yeah, it should be able to travel a little more. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and add in a bit of space there, so we can have the full suspension travel of these leaf springs. And either way, I have to have some sort of pin coming out here to mount this to the rest of the body or chassis. All right. So this would go through here. This will also make for a little bit of a smoother. Oh, this part's broken. And here we go. So probably something I should do while I'm at it is add some sort of cross bracing here. Although there's not much room for it with this. Struggle is real. Maybe I should have just kept those limiters in there, because that way I can have cross bracing. Sorry, you guys can't really see what I'm looking at. So basically, what I want, since this is there are going to be two of these, I want to add a brace going in between. But like I was talking about earlier, I want to have the full suspension travel, and any cross bracing will probably interfere with this unless it's higher up. Or if it's up front here, where it's not even going to be touching the axle. So that's probably where I'm going to put some cross bracing. Feel free to ask questions, of course. So you have 3 viewers, which is quite a bit for a non-regular live stream. I'm trying to be optimistic, I know. Okay. Hopefully once I start doing these more regularly, I'll have more viewers. Builds will be more interesting, and hopefully I'll actually have a decent camera too. So right now I'm saving up for BrickCon, which is a LEGO convention up in Seattle. I have to pay for my own ticket, and I also need to pay for half of the gas money. So altogether that sums up to around 80 or 90 bucks. Okay. More changes. I'm actually moving out the whole frame by 1. Like I talked about earlier, the cross bracing. I don't want that to interfere. So I'm actually going to go ahead and install the cross bracing above the axle too. But also this will make the mounting of the rear shackles a little bit easier. And then there will also be a lot of mounting points for the rear bodywork. It's the way that I'm going about this now. So instead of mounting shackles to something like this, which will have to have its own sort of mounting points and everything, and then that might overcomplicate it and be, of course, unnecessary. I'm going to go ahead and use 2 of these frames, which, of course, I don't have many of, but I don't need to use many because they offer so many mounting points that later on in the chassis or in the bodywork build, I'll be able to actually mount a lot of stuff to them, and it'll just be overall a lighter system. Yeah, that works out really nicely. So temporarily I'll connect these with one of these. Fun fact, the parts that I'm using for the shackles, these bits right here, are actually, I think, let's see, they're about 12 years old, yeah. I've owned them for about 12 years. Oh wow, we have 5 viewers now. It's pretty cool. Or 4, whatever. Again, feel free to ask questions. I'll answer most of them. Pertaining to the build or not, just questions in general. I'll try and answer all of them. Alright. So this is the rear axle now. I'm going to be mounting a beam going across here and then connecting to the frames. Should make for a pretty solid rear end. Okay. Mount these on the outside or on the inside. Looking at the overall build, I'm going to go ahead and mount these towards the inside so that we can have some room for the rear lights, which I'm hoping to actually get right this time and actually have them work and actually look nice. TLDR. Because last time my rear end was kind of, well, the rear end for this car was kind of what set me at a creative roadblock. Alright, 7, 9. That's 11. Here, I'm going to need a... Alright, after I'm done with this mounting point, I'm going to go ahead and put on some wheels and then test out the suspension stiffness. Hopefully these leaf springs aren't too stiff or too soft. That's usually a problem in some of my models. But what do you mean leave some of these on the ground on purpose? Oh, my Lego bricks? No, since I'm the only one in my room, I don't like stepping on Lego bricks and killing my feet. So I usually keep my Lego bricks on my desk. Sometimes they roll down there. One of the pieces already rolled down there actually during this live stream. So I don't know. I only got one question. Bam. Let's see, how much room do I have in the rear of this? I have about 7 from the wheel. Okay, yeah, so I definitely have enough room to mount it like that. Alright, so here's the frame for the rear leaf spring, or leaf axle. Seems to be fairly not too stiff, which is good. And I'm mounting. Wow, this actually looks pretty large, especially for just this. But for now, it actually seems a little stiff. But I think the reason for that is that the leaf springs aren't really being activated. It's mainly just the parts are bending, and how to fix that really is just to stabilize the chassis a little bit more. And I think once we connect these two together, then I can actually start working on. Oh yeah, I also need to hook up the motor, start working on cabin as well, and find a mounting point for the battery box. Which last time I had it right here, but to be honest, I don't think that's the best spot for it. Really nice spot would be back here, of course, or maybe even under there, which I might redesign this rear chassis for that. And this is the battery box size, just for reference. I mean, I could mount it right there, but that might interfere with some body work or something like that. And I'll have to have an extension cable running and some sort of external power switch. So for now, I'm just going to get these two axles connected, and then we'll have a chassis. Then I can start looking at motorizing this, putting some drive motors on this, and so on and so forth. Alright, so let's use this. 3. Yeah, so this needs to be the distance between the two axles, or actually the two wheels, is 27 of these. So running straight back to there should be from here 26. That'll be there. Is that how far it should be? So it needs to be 26. This needs to be the first one visible. Okay. So that's how far it needs to be. There needs to be 19. And yeah, that more or less has to be a straight beam. Yeah. Unless I figured out some sort of crazy thing. No. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask again. Let's see. Yeah, I was 19 counting this, I think. Yep. So here I have 9, so 10, 5 overlap. Here I can actually add some stable. Yeah, okay. No, I am not going to make a duck noise, and I can't, unfortunately. So looking at this chassis right now, it looks a little bit high off the ground. It has about 2.5 centimeters of ground clearance. To be honest, I'd like that to be around 2. But if we look at the actual blueprint, it has about the same amount, or it should have about the same amount. So I'm not sure if I'm actually going to have an interior in this, if it's going to actually be a convertible version that I've been posting pictures of. We'll see. Wait, hold on, let me check. Huh. So I made this a little longer than I needed. So, okay, it was just this part. And I'll use this. Alright, here we go. Here's a chassis with both the axles connected. Just to quickly review what this model has. Front suspension. Dual A-arm independent suspension. It features kingpin inclination, so that means that the pins that get mounted to the A-arm are at an angle, pointing inwards. It also has a caster angle, so the arms are mounted like that. Let's see if I can make this. Yeah, so like that. Aiming backwards. It also has Ackerman steering geometry, which means that from the pivot point of the wheels to the point of the steering arm, if you draw a line there, it'll meet up at the center of this rear axle, and same with the other line. So those two, all those features combined on the front axle are found on real cars, first of all, and second of all, they help a lot with stability and steering. So that's the reason that real cars have them. This model it's not really affected by them, but always a nice engineering challenge. I'm like the Joey of Legos. Pretty much, yes. I'm studying to be a mechanical engineer, so all this stuff hopefully will go into that eventually. Yeah. Now we're going on to the rear axle, of course. Only thing it really features besides cool Lego leaf springs, positive caster angle. So on rear wheels you actually want to have a positive. Here you want negative. Once I stabilize this part right here, this leaf spring should act a lot more, I guess. Should have more of an impact. There you go. So essentially, this is what we have so far. Chassis. Now I need to find mounts for the motors. I'm going to be using either 1 or 2 of these large motors, depending on how much space I have. I'm just gonna look at some positioning for now, see where I could put these motors. Oh, so they're mounted horizontally. Let's see, where do we want to have? Where should the seats be? Seats are going to be, fortunately, right there. I think we have up till about here. So up here we're going to have the mechanism that goes to the working steering wheel that's going to be in the chassis. that's gonna be it. So I could get working on that right now, and then might go ahead and mount the battery box here again. Maybe if I have room, we'll go ahead and mount the motors here, have some sort of gearing, have it go down, then we'll have all this space in the back to work with. One of the only thing that worries me about that kind of is the front suspension is feeling a little soft. I might go ahead and modify the springs a little bit. Sorry guys, I'll only use Lego bricks to modify it. I saw this trick where you can use one of these half bushings and stiffen, for example, one of these medium soft springs by taking this apart and sliding it on there. It makes the spring a little stiffer. I might do that here, might not. We'll see if I need it. Alright. So for now I'm going to work on the steering mechanism. See if I can get... Yeah, the output will be at a really nice spot. We'll be able to draw steering wheel out to here. Yeah, easiest way to do it probably just be use one of these. I'll go ahead and use gray bushings here. Save the red ones for the body work. I'm going to go ahead and hook this up to a battery box really quickly and test out how the return to sender steering works. See if we have any problems with, see if it'll interfere with the gearing. So there's the steering. I actually really like this. I don't remember it being this clean. And as you can see, Ackerman steering geometry, the inner wheel turns more than the outer wheel. That's also in part to the kingpin inclination and other suspension features. But overall, oh wow. Battery might have just died. I doubt it though. Yeah, there we go. Working really nicely. So, that shouldn't be interfering with anything of ours. Anything over here. Is that a Scrabble box? That's actually a Scrabble flash box. It's a really interesting modification of Scrabble, and it's also very portable. I use it to keep all my tools in, and also to keep 2 Mindstorms bricks. I have pliers in here, screwdrivers, tape measure, micro tool, or yeah, screwdrivers, pocket knives, all that sort of stuff. All the tools that I need are in there. Will it blend? Yes, it will, but I'd rather blend Mega Blocks because that's a more deserving fate. Gaspit works. Yes, it does. It does. All right. Oh, that's a place where I can mount it, I think. So that one's going to be on its own. Okay. This shouldn't cause any problems. Usually when you mount gears in Lego, you want to have, you don't just want it to be mounted on one side, you want it to be mounted on the other side as well, something to hold it on. But here, since this is going to be going to just a simple steering wheel, I don't think there's going to be enough torque to dislodge this gear. So hopefully this should work when we hook up the steering wheel and everything. I'm going to hook this up to a universal joint and one of these gears. And there you go. So that's very simple gearing, just a little gear train. This is going to go up to the steering once I find out where I want to mount it. Yeah, unfortunately I only have one blueprint picture right now with dimensions written on it. Okay, so that's it so far. Now I'm going to see if I can mount all the stuff here. Let's hook this back up to the battery box. And yeah, have it right there. So this could potentially work. I'd have to mount that there, or so. Don't want to mount it too far out. Although I could mount it inward facing. Yeah, that would work, because I have this extra space here. And that space could be used to take the wiring out. Up here I'm going to mount both of the motors. Dang. It's going to be a lot of weight on the front axle. It's the only thing. Since the rear is so stiff, I kind of want to put a lot of weight back there, but I don't think there's really not much I can put here because of the way the frame is designed right now. If I redesign the frame, maybe I could put in maybe this heavier battery box to counterweight it, but regardless, I think I might as well just mount the battery box here so that I don't have to worry so much about how complicated the front is. And I can mount these two here. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mount the battery box here, and I'm going to use one of my portable switches to route the battery box switch up, maybe even down, maybe I'll have it underneath. Then I'll have an extension cable running to the receiver and other such things. So for now, right now I'm going to work on mounting the motors, gearing them up, and hooking them up to the rear drive. Maybe we'll actually have a driving chassis within a little bit. Oh wow, why? I hate my system clock so much. Basically, this is off topic from the build, but recently I was working on setting up my Linux distribution, and one of the main problems I had there was the system clock was acting funny, in that in web applications like Chrome, it would display time, I think it was 7 hours ahead. Yeah, 7 hours ahead. And then on my desktop, it would display the correct time. So I had to change system variables there just to get the time working properly. And I think that might have affected my Windows performance. Because now, yeah, this is displaying time 7 hours ahead. Although Gmail is displaying it properly. Oh, yeah. Linux struggles. Oh, why? Is that actually going to work? Let's see. Oh no, that'll interfere with the hood later on. Dang, that would have been really nice though. All right. So of course, since I wasn't planning on mounting these motors up front here, I never left any mounting points. So right now I have to figure out a place to get some mounting points for those motor holes right there. I could always just mount it to the chassis, just mount it here and just have it hanging off the edge here. Well, not really off the edge, but just hanging loose. And then have it all connected to the chassis up here. But I'd rather have it connected to something back here, if anything, just for stability. And of course, I actually want to have some sort of cabin area here too. So that's why I'm trying to make everything up here. I could, of course, always just mount the motors here, have some simple gearing there, but I want to have everything be under the hood. I'm hopefully also going to have an opening hood too. Oh, okay. Sorry for interrupting with such stupid. But do you normally talk when building? Okay, so Martin's asking if I normally talk while building. Yeah, I sometimes talk to myself. Some of the stuff goes on in my head, but I don't know. I think it's interesting sometimes to hear what builders are saying. So when I'm live streaming, I mean, this is when I first live stream, so I'm acting relatively normal. Yeah, I talk while building. I tell myself, oh, let's try this or something like that. But yeah, it's I'm glad to have you on the stream. By the way, Martin, I've seen your work. It's really amazing. Do you talk to yourself when you're not building? Yes. I also talk to inanimate objects, imagined entities, and other such things. And most of the time people say it's normal. Although I don't think everybody knows the extent to which it's done. Alright, so now I have 2 mounting points for the motors. Finally figured out a way to get those parts in there. Although, it's not quite the way I wanted it to be. Perfectionism. Although what I could do is flip it around the other way, have the gearing be up front. No, I can't do that because I need space for bulky motors. Let's see if I can figure out something. See, how much room do I have before it hits the dashboard? Pretty hard to tell. Until about there. I'm gonna have some gears moving down. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just mount these a little bit more forward. It's gonna simplify things in the long run. Okay, so now that I have all that figured out, it's a simple part of building it. Another thing that I need to check is the gear ratio that I'm going to be using. I might use a straight up 1-to-1 gear ratio, but I might want to have this be a little bit faster, especially since it's a Mustang muscle car. Might want to have it be a little bit faster. Let's see what some of my previous models had. Okay, the Lucra had let's see. I'm going to go ahead and open up Serial's gear page. Make this simple. It's I think it's one of the tools that nobody really uses for whatever reason. By the way, it's gears.serial SARIEL.pl. This tool just calculates gear ratios. It's very useful, especially what I was talking about earlier. It's only really useful in situations where you have multiple gear chains going. And if you just don't want to plug them into a calculator, you can just select them graphically. Okay, so my Lucra model, which was almost actually purchased by the owner of Lucra Cars, that model had a 1-to-1 gear ratio, and it used same tires, same gearbox. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use a 1-to-1 gear ratio. That model also had 2 motors, so and it worked fairly well. I think since this thing has suspension, I might actually want to make sure that it has some power. So 1-to-1 gear ratio it is. Also, something that I'm noticing already is this thing's going to need some bracing on the forward side because it's only mounted on the bottom right now. It's a little wobbly here. So I'm going to have to put some sort of arm around it and brace it a little bit, which shouldn't be a problem at all. Alright, so I'm going to use a 1-to-1 gear ratio. That's actually pretty interesting. So instead of running this down the middle, instead of running it down here, I'm going to save some space because, well, that would involve, first off, the reason why I'm not going to do it, it's going to involve putting extra gears here, and that's going to maybe run this up to here in terms of gearing, and that's going to be intruding on the cabin space. So I'm going to run gears going around and run it along this beam right here, that beam, and then I'll just have universal joints going to here. So that'll allow some more freedom of movement for the rear suspension. It'll also allow me to work a lot more on the cabin, have it a little bit more detailed. And yeah, right now at the height of this, you can see that this is actually only 2 studs up above this, and the hood is going to be the final layer. The hood's going to be resting right on top of that. So I'm pretty surprised he got this all this compact. Yeah, here we go. If you guys have any questions, I can answer them like now, or since I'm just mainly in a building phase and I'm not talking about any planning or anything. So any questions really pertaining to the build, I'll answer some personal questions. Nothing too out of the park though. Serious question. How do you plan on putting the body on, and do you think you will put an interior in? The body just kind of is going to be all mounted wherever. It's not just a one-piece kind of thing. The body's integrated into the chassis and everything. And in terms of an interior, yeah, I plan on putting, to some extent, an interior in. Probably 2 seats and steering wheel, dashboard, things like that. Nothing too detailed, especially since my parts are fairly limited. I only have, this desk right here and a few bins down on the floor. So yeah, the body's just gonna happen more or less naturally, mounted to different parts on the chassis, and the interior will be mounted. There will be an interior. ahead and keep that. Or we'll just have, okay. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Thanks for keeping me posted, Cooper. Could just get a Twitter and post that kind of stuff there. Oh, this is going to work out pretty nicely, actually. Oh, that won't actually work. So basically what I was doing here with the gearing, sorry, it's kind of hard to see, but I wanted to run that down, have something be there, and go back in. Thing is, this steering motor would have interfered with the main drive shaft, so I have to either, so I had to run it to the side and then forward and then back in. And then I was trying to use this this bent lift arm to just mount these securely, but that'll interrupt or interfere with those gears, so I'm actually going to move this lift arm to the other side. Won't be as nice because it won't be fitting in with that. Actually, that might interfere with that steering link, so I'm going to have to redesign the stabilizer, I guess you could call it. Dropping parts. That's not really the nicest gear ratio I could use for that. Okay. One of the things I could do. No, I should keep that. Okay. As always, if you guys have questions anytime, feel free to ask. If I'm busy, I'll just answer the questions when I'm not. Why are my walls blue? Because I really like the color blue. Let's be honest. And when I originally came to this room, I think the walls are basically a color that I didn't like, or nobody in our house really liked. We repainted all the walls in our house, and we decided to go with the blue. I don't know. It's a nice color. Brown car in the back. This one right here. This is a wooden Hummer model. On my Facebook page, I actually posted this. Posted a picture of this with custom wheels that I have for the custom Lego wheels, and I was going to make a copy of this in Lego, basically. Never got around to it, but yeah, this is just a wooden scale Hummer that I got as a present once, as a gift. I keep it around in case I eventually decide to build a Hummer and need some sort of inspiration. Not so much of an inspiration as a guide, really. Okay. So I'm almost done mounting the main drive shaft. After I figure out this gearing real quick, I'll go ahead and hook up some electronics, and we'll test out to see if the drive actually works. All right. All right, here we go. Gearing is installed. It's 1-to-1. Now I just need to run this drive shaft to there, and then we will have hopefully working drive. Actually, I'm going to swap this out for a universal joint. Even better would be to swap it out for a CV joint. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and use some of these CV joints. So, just quick facts for those of you who did not know, the difference between universal joint right here and a continual CV joint, which is continuous velocity, I think, that's what it stands for, something like that. So a universal joint, because it consists of 3 pieces and it has this little center crosslink, at certain angles, well, basically the velocity of this output shaft isn't consistent with this. It'll still make one full revolution for revolution of this, but instead of having a constant velocity, it'll have a slow velocity, fast velocity, and then slow velocity again. If you have 2 universal joints, this isn't as much of a problem, but the reason I'm using continual or CV joints here is because the way Lego made CV joints is actually really nice. You can have an axle in there and have it have a little bit of flexibility while still being driven. So since this is a leaf spring axle, the axle is going to be moving a bit in relation to the chassis. I want to have a little bit more flexibility, not have to rely on the tension of the parts. And plus, this piece is really nice to just hook up. Saves a little bit of space too. There's the other CV joint. Okay. So from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there we go, the drive shaft is connected. Runs the motors through some gearing, then all the way down to the live axle. These CV joints make it really nice and easy to connect it. Also, if I have to do some repairs, they're pretty easy to pop off too. Hopefully they won't pop off while driving. But speaking of driving, let's go ahead and just hook up some basic electronics and drive this thing around a little bit on my desk. Well, let me pull out. Do I have a remote? Yes, I do have a remote under here. So this is all very temporary right here. This battery box setup and all. You know what? I'm gonna mount this back here. Yeah. Put a little bit more weight on the rear axle, although that won't really reach. So steering and drive. How do I secure this? Alright, here it goes. Alright, that's one problem already. CV joint popped off. So I'm going to have to add some spacers on this axle right here. Make sure that CV joint is actually on there a little bit more than it was. So it's working pretty well. Well, at least it's working. Once I get some bushings on this axle, we'll get more consistent drive stream or drive line, yeah. And steering, of course, functions as always. So drive with the differential, of course. Steering working well, even with all this complicated steering geometry. Feeling pretty good. So now I just have to figure out the mounting points for all the electronics, mainly just these two, and then we can get to work. I don't know if I want to get to work on the bodywork today, considering this live stream's already been going on for 2.5 hours. I'll go ahead and probably, after mounting the electronics, I'll take a picture, post it to Facebook, and set up another date for another live stream. So, time to quickly mount the electronics, hook that all up. Oh yeah, I'm also going to have some lights on this model, so I'm going to have to figure out a positioning for the light switch. There should be enough room to stow away extra wiring here and here. There's a lot of space in the chassis. So that should look relatively clean when the model's done. If you guys have any questions, just any questions at all, if you want me to go over some part of the model or anything, just go ahead and ask a question. This live stream is probably going to only last another 15 minutes or so. Do I want to run that down or up? Run it down. If we have an openable trunk, which I hope we do. Let's see. On the old model, before I stopped this, I had an opening trunk. So I'm thinking if thinking maybe I could store the or have an on and off switch inside the trunk right here. There's not going to be much to do in the trunk on this model since the chassis is redesigned, and there wasn't really much trunk space in the old model either. So I might be able to have, I should be able to have enough space to mount an on-off switch there. Let me just check the blueprint too. So about here is where the bodywork's going to start. The slanted, what am I talking about? Just the tail lights and everything is all going to be about 1 or 2 studs off of here. Probably closer to 2. Bottom's going to start here, go up like that. So we should have enough. This battery box mounting should be completely fine. Good. Okay. So now I'm going to make one of my switches that I usually use for my models, on-off switch. Again, if you guys have questions, go ahead and ask. I don't have much time left in this live stream because I want to save some stuff for the next one. And yeah, for those of you watching and those of you who know about BrickCon, I'm gonna be there next year. I have a few projects planned, some pretty large projects. Hopefully, I'll be able to get them actually done without ordering too many parts because my budget's very limited. But yeah, I have a few projects in mind for BrickCon. What color am I going to use for the on-off switch? Probably blue. Yeah, that works. On, off. That's it right there. So that's my on-off switch. I'm actually going to put in a stopper right there so this doesn't go too far. Then I have to figure out a position for the IR receiver next. Oh wow, that's not where that goes. It goes right there. Okay. On, off. Awesome. Let's see if I can press both of the leaf springs to the maximum amount. Maybe I'll integrate the IR receiver into the dashboard somehow. That'd be pretty cool. But to be honest, I'd like to have it somewhere around here. Just because it's further back towards the end of the model. I'm still thinking about hardtop or a convertible. I mean, the model or the picture I've been showing on VK Technic has been a convertible, of course, but I think hardtop might be easier to build and allow me to hide the IR receiver a little better. We'll see, though. Let me actually look at some of the pictures of different Mustangs. So that's the Mustang that I've been planning on building. If I wanted to be really clever, I could have this be part of the grille and maybe get some sort of custom sticker, put it over that, have a Mustang logo, just have this kind of facing forward, coming out of the grill. It would work fine, but I don't know how good of an idea that is. Let's see. Where's my other? There's. So I do have 2 extension cords. I have one already hooked up to the battery box, so that I can kind of manage the wires a little bit. Since I'm going to be having at least 3 pairs of lights, maybe 4 if I order another pair, then yeah, I'm going to need an external battery cord, because there's no way I'm fitting 5 plugs on top of each other right there. You're going to run into that. I mean, it's already kind of running into it. Okay. So I think that's about it for today. I'm still not sure I'm going to mount this. I'm going to go ahead and print out some blueprints, or go on Serial's website, use some of his tools to figure out some of the dimensions, see where I can mount this. After that, I'm gonna post a link to the live stream, to the next week's live stream. I think I'm gonna put it next week, yeah, next Saturday. Should have another live stream about the same time. I'll be hooking up the dashboard on that live stream, starting to work on maybe the rear end, possibly the front end. I'm not sure yet. But I'll start working on the bodywork next live stream. Maybe even start working on the cabin, and finally find a mounting point for this. Alright, so thank you all for watching. Do I want to play TF2? No, I do not. I'm sorry. I have work to do. Yeah, alright, thank you all for watching this live stream. I'm gonna go ahead and post a photo to Facebook. Thanks. Yeah, see you guys next time.